Yeah, good morning or good evening to all of you. Many thanks, Paul, for the introduction. I want to give you today an overview about the new mail capabilities in Team Developer 6. So this is a new release and we are on the way to launch this release in the next days. So what I want to show you today is the new functionality to use POP3 and SMTP mail possibilities to transfer mails out of an application or to receive mails from, let's say, from different other systems, mail hosts and so on, so that you can display and store information inside the database based on the new mail classes. So the agenda for today is the new mail capabilities inside Team Developer 6. We want to have a look into the mail class for POP3 and SMTP. And for this we have to include a new APL called SAL-Mail APL. I want to give you a short overview about the SAL-Mail function reference. And of course I want to show you some sample code for settings of the email environment, sending email and retrieve email. And later on I want to show you a sample based on the .NET build targets. So SAL-Mail class now supports SMTP protocol for sending emails and POP3 for receiving emails. This is a new, or not really a new protocol, but it is implemented for most of the mail hosts, and they use SMTP and POP3 to communicate with different mail clients. So applications that need to both send and receive mails must utilize two instances of this class, one for sending and one for reviewing or receiving emails. That means, in detail, if you want to create an application which sends and receives class at the same time, then you need two instances of this mail class, one for receiving and one for sending. Or you can, if you have a sequence first sending and then receiving, then you have reset, for example, first the send class instance, and then you can set it up for receiving emails. So let's have a look into the outline structure. So on the right side you can see that I included for this sample a file include salmail.apl and includes file salmail.apl from .NET 6 installation directory. So this is sent and installed by Team Developer 6. We have an external function that is called salmail60.dll, and this includes the DLL for the external functions. We need some variables like the username and the password, and we have a class definition salmail for the functional class to contact and to create an instance of the salmail class. The APL also gives us a dialog box for login. That means if we don't know the user and the password, then we get automatically a login screen, login dialog to type in the user and the password for our mail client. External functions inside salmail60.dll represents a DLL with a lot of internal functions like POP3 connect, like get mail, send mail, connect, disconnect, and so on. So for the different features we have now inside the salmail60 DLL. So it's not so much new functions inside this class, but very powerful functions. So with these functions you can send emails with attachments to different mail, let's say mail targets, and you have the possibility to have different formats. You can check if you have a very high transmission of emails. That means, for example, it must be, you want to have a receive if someone reads your email, or you want to attach some special attachments, or you have a special format like HTML. So you can use this function to set all these properties for this mail. What you have to do, you have to send the mail or you have to receive the mail. That means property set and property set and get information inside these functional classes. Also, we have a dialog for the username and password for the mail server. So if you don't know, or if it's not set directly by your environment, then you have to type in the username and the password before you can connect to the mail service. So SAL-Mail class, I mentioned you have to set up your username and your password. These are global variables of the type string, and you can use the dialog login, the login dialog, which is included into the source by salmail.apl. Or you can use the registry. Maybe you have set up your user and password for different other mail systems and mail clients. Then you can use this registry information by reading the registry and for setting up both global variables. You can use an INI file to save this username and password. Or maybe someone gives you database information like your normal user login with different parameters and 2 additional parameters for the username and the password for the mailing system. So again, note if the username and password is not set, the dialog login dialog will be displayed automatically. You don't have to check if this is set or not. So this is done by our class. So let's have a look into some SAL-mail class functions. First of all, what you have to do is you have to connect to your mail server. So establish the connection with the server, and the return value is a number which will represent some different error states. For example, if your connect was successful, it returns 0. Otherwise, returns an error identifier. Maybe invalid username or password, invalid server address or port number, the timeout, or other errors. So the best practice is if you use some functions from the SAL-mail class, then you have to check every time the return values. Maybe your username or password is wrong, or you have some problems connecting to the server, or security is not set, and so on. So that makes sense to track every time after firing one of these functions to check if some return values are not 0. So the next function is SAL-nread equal delete mail. It deletes the mail with the indicated mail ID. So every mail has an ID on side of your server, and if you get an email from your server transferred into your client, then you have an identifier for this email. So later on we will see that you get this identifier, this is number, and this can be used to delete a special mail on server side. And you can use this mail to store this mail, the envelope of the mail, inside a database. And this is really a unique identifier, and you will see that this identifier can be used to refer to different mails or maybe to attachments. So if the connect was successful, it returns 0. Otherwise, it returns user hasn't connected to server if you get a 1, a 2 server is stopping, or other errors. So if someone is shutting down your server, maybe you get during delete mail number 2 back, so you can track this error and write a nice message box. Please try again because our server is now down. Disconnect ends the session with the server. So again, you get back a return value, it's a number again. So if it was successful, you get 0. Otherwise, it returns user haven't connected to the server. So if you are not connected, then you get a 1 back, or other errors if you have error number 2. So get envelope gives you the header of a special email on server side. So retrieves the envelope information for 1 or more messages. So the parameter lists are mostly received as an array. Sometimes it's a number array, or sometimes it is really a string. So mostly this is sent at the first step from the server into your application, and based on this information you can download attachment and the bodies and so on from a special envelope or special email based on the envelope. So B first is Boolean variable, so it indicates whether the retrieve envelope starting with the first message, new message. So if B first is false, then the retrieve starts where the last call of get envelopes left off. So that means, for example, if you have n count, you want to transfer 10 envelopes in your array in the first step, and then you close the connection. If B first is false, then you start after the next connection, if you want to have the envelopes, you get it back by b first equal false, and this gives the possibility that you can download your email step by step, not maybe 100 at the first time if you was on vacation, whatever. So that gives you the possibility to have portions of transfer into your database, and if you can check it step by step. If you have only true, then every email will be transferred, every new email will be transferred into your system, into your application. So end count is the maximum number of envelopes to retrieve. So good practice is to start with 10, and you will see sometimes maybe you have long attachments, very big attachments, with 2 or 3 megabyte, 4 megabyte in each time. Then it makes sense to have step by step maybe only 2 or 3 transfers of envelopes at the same time, because you can use again the envelopes to download all the attachments, all the bodies and so on. So it gives you not really, it gives you more time to get to work with this email, to bring them to the database if you want to save all the information inside the database, or to save all the attachment into a file system and so on. So again, it's an array, and you get back the message IDs, the date of the email, the subject, and the organization or organizator. That means the sender of the email. So the end return value, if the connect was successful and everything was fine, it returns 0. Otherwise, it returns an error identifier. User hasn't connected to the server yet. Start index of mail is greater than the number of messages. So if you have, for example, 20 or 23 messages inside your email account, then you have to set up the end count to 10. Then you will get back, oh, you have more than this messages and the message count. So it makes sense to connect again to the server and to get additional envelopes. 3 server stopping and other errors is number 4. Get mail gives you really the mail bodies, the subject, and the CC lists, and all the recipient lists and so on. So based on the envelope, you can get all the nice emails, and sometimes you get only the body, or maybe sometimes you have all this attachments. So it's a comma separated or semicolon separated list of attachments. And the same for the CC list, RC list, and the subjects, and so on. So every time, if you have more than one email address in the CC or in the RC, then you get a semicolon separated list of recipients or CC recipients. And the same for the attachment. It's again, if you have more than one file, you get a semicolon separated list of paths for the attachment. So then you can step through this string, and you can use the string to create the file saves and so on, to save all the attachments. Or if you want to bring them into the database, a link into the database, or if you want to store the whole attachment inside the database, then you have to code something that you can bring the special attachment into special files and locate these files into a file system or into the database. Again, if everything was fine, you get a 0. If something happens, you give something like 1, user isn't connected to the server, or server is stopping, invalid mail identifier, because the mail identifier is really used from the get envelope. So if you get a special identifier, let's say it's number 1781, then you need to, in the parameter list, 1781 as a mail ID to get the right mail and from the get mail function. The format flag is very useful if you have only plain text, or if you receive HTML or RTF files or RTF emails. So you can say, I need an HTML viewer to view the mail, or I need my rich text control inside Team Developer to view the rich text inside my Team Developer application. Get next mail is the same as get mail. You can use get next mail in the first step, so you don't have to start with get mail. You can use get next mail in a loop to download all the bodies and attachments. The parameter list is the same, and you can use the get next mail again in a loop, like you want to use it like SQL fetch next. So this is write the next or the same technology. Get next mail gives you the next mail information, the attachment, the body, and the formats, and so on. And you can use it inside the loop, and you can create some arrays to deal with this information and store them in the database. So the parameter list and the be first and new and so on is the same as for get mail. You don't have to start with get mail and then the next one is get next mail. You can directly start with get next mail. Initialize the member variables to default properties. So, for example, you start with sending emails, and then you want to use the same class and the same functions for retrieving emails. Then you have to fire first initialize to reset all the member variables to the default properties. Then you can start again setting the password, the connection defaults, the port numbers, and so on. So again, initialize resets your settings inside your environment, and then you can start again setting all the properties, the port numbers, maybe you have to change the URL and so on for the your mail system, your mail server. Then you can use it again, the same class and the same instance of the class. Send the mail, that is pretty simple. To create is a parameter list for the format flag. Flags, that means you can use plain text, you can use HTML format or rich text format. Then we have the subject line of the email for a subject. This originator is a string. So that means this is really the sender of the mail. You can say you want to have your own email address inside this originator, or you can use a different one. So, for example, I can say data like info@unified.com. I don't have to type in, or I don't have to use my own email address like helmutreimann.unified.com. Recipient list is a semicolon delimited list of mail recipients. The same for the carbon copy list. Then body of the email is a string. It could be plain text, could be HTML, could be a rich text format. Then we have some attachments. Again, you can use some techniques and functions from Team Developer for the attachment to attachments, which are a semicolon delimited list of a system's passes. And if you need a recipient request, then you can then you get a received if someone, or a received email if someone looks or opens your email and downloads your email. And high priority by byte means the priority low, you can use 0. The normal priority of your email is 1, and priority very high, it's number 2. So everything what you can set in Outlook can be done in a parameter list. And the return value is again a number. And everything was successful and the mail was sent, you get back a 0. 1 for user hasn't connected to the server. 2 server is stopping. 3 invalid recipient. We have invalid attachment file. File denies access. So if you have a secured file and you are not allowed to send something, you get back number 5 and 6 other errors. To set up your server connectivity. That means you have to type in the host name of the server, the port number of the server, 0 indicates used. Then BSSL boolean indicates that SSL should be used. If true, SSL is used. So if you set it to true, every time the security SSL is used. BSend is a boolean. If true, the sale sending emails. If false, it is used to retrieve or receive emails. So the same function is used for setting up sending and receiving emails. True, then the system expects that you want to send something to the mail server. If it is sent to false, then the system allows you to receive emails. That's why you have this if you want to change something. So as default, the port is 0, and vsend is true, then the port will be defaulted to 25. If the port is 0 and vsend is false, then the port will be defaulted to 110. So these are the receiving and sending emails. Set user is used to identify the user, the client on the mail server, user name, and the password is a string is password. That's pretty simple, so I don't have to explain it, I guess. So the following SAL mail class. The screenshots of the code are done from the sample app, and you can download the sample app later on the resource page of our Unify Academy for this chapter. Inside the Team Developer sample directory. So if you download the samples from the new Team Developer 6, you will get this sample how to use the mail classes as Team Developer 6. It's easily implemented, these new features for Team Developer 6, by copy and paste the code into your own application. So if you know how it works and what you have to include in your application, copy and paste of code from the sample application into your own application, and maybe you can use the SQL base table to store database or store database by only unloading the tables which are used to store and the emails, to handle all the emails, because we use a grid control to display all the information, and if you have details and about when a special email was sent, to have a send list or an input list, or which email is new, is already read, and so on, then you can use the database information and you can set different days if the email was read or not. So it's a simple copy of functions, methods, and so on, so you can implement it very, very easily. So first of all, useful constants is only a sample, maybe in your environment. So for example, email account constant. We have a string for the username. The username is normally the name of the email address, or the email address itself, company.app@gmail.com. So we set it up to test our email environment, and for this environment we have a password is called Unify DevCon. The server name is pop.gmail.com. Then for SMTP, Island Company Application is the originator. Island Company app.gmail@gmail.com is again the username. We have a password for SMTP. The SMTP server gmail.com, and the port number is 587. If you use a different email provider, then maybe your settings are definitely different, but copy and paste into your application, or you want to save all this information inside the registry or in the database to have it on one place, maybe for all your clients. So sending emails, the first steps to code user. Then we have to set the mail server, all the properties to set for the server. Then we have to connect to our server. We have to send the email, and we have to disconnect. So also some code is needed to set format priority, to check of errors, and so on. And we will see the sample code. First of all, we have to set the user. So we have an instance class, it's called OSMTP, and we have to set the user and the username and the user password. In the next line, set mail server, the server name, the port number for SMTP, because we want to send something. We have to set SMTP SSL, and I don't know if this is now the true or the false. Then we have to connect to the server. And if you are connected, then it makes sense to say, to check if it's a local and so on. Then maybe we have to set some formats. Maybe we have an email content for HTML, or we have plain text, or we have rich text and so on. So you have to find out the right format. If this is done and like CCs and and email content, and maybe we have to set up some attachments and so on. We have to send the mail. So what we need is the format, the subject, the username, then the to, send to, the send, then the list for the attachment is empty. Then we have delivery recipient and the mail priority. And before, maybe inside a dialog, is now used to send this email. And if this is done, then we have to disconnect. I don't want to show the return values of this because we need more than 2 or 3 slides, because we have to check really maybe every call to this mail class to make sure that everyone is connected, that the settings are okay and so on. Obtain email information is pretty the same. What we have to do is, again, we have to set the user, we have to set the email server, or the server settings, we have to connect, and we have to get the envelopes, and then we have to disconnect. It's needed to set format and priority to check for errors and to fill a grid based on the envelope array. So what we get is an array for the envelope, and we have to pass through this array, but later on you will see the source code for this. So pretty simple again. We have to set the user first. Then again we have to set the mail server. And the last parameter, the 4th parameter, is set to false. That means we want to receive some mail. So then we have to connect to the server. And if everything was fine, then we initialize some arrays. That means to get all this data, like the message IDs, the date of the email, and the originator of the email. And then we can use get envelopes in a loop first we have to get the envelopes, and we get an array for the recipient, for the subject or originator, and then we can step through this arrays, and maybe we fill a grid inside our application with all this information stepping through this envelopes. And then we have to disconnect. If we need some the bodies and the attachments of the email, then we have to step. This is step number 5, get mail, or get mail next, or get next mail, sorry. So again, we need some code to step through all these arrays and to fill the information into the database. So this is pretty simple. If we have an envelope, then we can use get mail for a special mail ID, and we get back the subject, originator, a list of the recipients, the CC, the body, and the attachments. So this is really one mail, and we get again a semicolon separated list of all these attachments and bodies, not the body, but of the rep. And get next mail steps again through the next information, but you can start with get next mail. You don't have to start with get mail. So this code is needed after an envelope is received. So if you have an envelope, if the array is filled, then you can step through the envelope, and with get mail, so special envelope or special email. So this was the first step, and now I want to show you, and I'm pretty sure you know this. source code because I showed it to you. And what I want to show is now we have an emails and we have a grid email which receives all these emails and some buttons and how to use and how to create and receive emails. What I did is pretty simple. In build settings, I choose .NET application for what I want to create, WPF desktop application, and I can now compile this application. So what I create is now application for this mail sample, and it takes a little bit of time because now I have because of the immediate language, and I'm sharing now my desktop again, and you will see this application is now running. So there's nothing inside like Win32, the old TeamDeveloper 5.2 and previous version. So it's really native .NET, and I switch now to the email capabilities, and you can see that I found into my environment, and I can use receive mail, and hopefully maybe I get some emails from my home system, and I get a new one. At this point I do really I open the envelope, and after opening the envelope I can use to open the body, maybe attachment and so on. So I can again reply something, I can forward it or so on. And this information is now stored inside the database. If I create a new email, again I have to type something in. At unify.com. Hello, and send it. Now we connect again to the server, and hopefully the email is sent. So, which are needed to send and receive emails out of TeamDeveloper application. Again, you can use a small sample inside our sample directory and sample applications. Want to be part of the Unify Academy. If you want to register for the Unify Academy, then you can use the Academy downloads and Academy demos applications and to pass tests and exams and so on. That's first from my side, and now I want to be back to Paul.